13 days to election 2020. Hello and welcome to the AM News with me, Mapito CBD. Now, after several violent clashes, some involving attacks on its incumbent member of parliament, the Ododo-Diodo constituency seems to be cementing its reputation as one of the most volatile areas prone to electoral violence. There have been concerns about the firmness and fairness of the police in prosecuting perpetrators of violent crimes in the constituency. As home to one of the most heated parliamentary contests in the December polls, the Ododo-Diodo constituency is the focus of our lens today on our Safety for My Vote series. Manuel Kranting reports.
2020, originally intended to be peaceful but turned violent. This is only one of several such episodes in a constituency that is fast gaining notoriety for electoral violence, Ododo-Diodo. In fact, it is at the top of the list of hotspots identified by police in Accra, with at least 50 flashpoints identified in this constituency. Residents here say they are living in fear.
BFA about former toy will be a no one year for a capotation. Sister Combe, a Yen, she token you. A Tashina, a photo, a chinas in a woman is going to about the tune. Many was an ebalan.
I can only get a quena in Cademy, a boy, and me. I get me, baby, but me. No, you don't hear what my name cry. No one buffy.
While the incumbent NDC MP Neil Ante-Vanderpoy and his main contender from the NPP, Neil Ante-Bannerman, have committed to a peaceful election, the reality is a constant trade of allegations from both camps, sometimes accusing the police of bias.
Jamestown Police Station has become toothless bulldogs. In fact, they are impotent simply because the people over there, when anybody from the NPP stock assaults the NDC, nothing. It is just nothing. Last time you saw somebody fired gun, ask whether that person had been arrested.
The small arms, they have to work on they have to be on their feet to cut all the arms, especially the local guns. It's affecting us. They are firing here yesterday on their work. They are firing here. So I think they have to do something, and they should stop. The parliamentary candidate should allow. They should talk to them. They should stop. And our parliamentary candidate to also allege that we shouldn't do anything concerned about the violence. But the NDC parliamentary candidate is known for violence.
This trend is eroding confidence in the ability of the police to fairly deal with an explosion of political violence should it occur.
Police in your be Papa can't come if you know. I'm a friend of Kawa, Nekeni Neaba. I'm a medium bull, Sana Messana. She kaka amejo fa ameshiwo wakagbe abagbe wofin ame amate ama kase nakani ni akame wo mi ake ma ebule sani ke no koktomo ne ke happy no onyo ogbe no po ya eko sani onyo odumoshi no osana.
It's like when you call, there's no good results because there's somebody out there who just also give command to suppress him. If the police, they are in their uniform, like we know what Ghana president, like their service integrity, and the service is there, but the integrity is not there.
But for Niai, a victim of the latest clash between the NPP and NDC, his gunshot wound is a reminder that elections must be without violence.
Me, I'm ready to tell my brothers and sisters that we need peace in our community. But if right now we started fighting like this, it's no good. I have to tell my brothers and sisters that we have to stop everything because we are all one people. Nilante and Nilante, they are all one name. If right now I can just fight with my another colleagues, if you I call my name is Nyai, another person come on Nyai.
In the midst of all these, one chorus seems to be echoing in all corners of the constituency, and that is for the police to increase its visibility there before, during, and after December 7. For Joy News, Manuel Kranting.
Now, the governing New Patriotic Party is hopeful its quest to win 1 million votes and 30 out of the 33 seats in the eastern region is on course. President Akufo-Addo, who expressed optimism, says his good works across the country will result in an emphatic win for him in the December general elections. At the Eastern Regional Tour at Obri, Nana Akufo-Addo said the NPP has the blueprint for the country's development, hence the need for it to be retained in government for another term.
We have laid the foundation for the future prosperity of Ghana. The New Patriotic Party has the blueprint for the development of our country. And by the end of my second term, that matter will be settled. It's Magistrate 2016, the Slamo said, Abamina Tramani, the Sayam, Fesami Babu Tramana Mamia, Motobu, boom, and money.
Away from that, the National Media Commission is cautioning security agencies against the abuse of journalists. The NMC says security agencies do not have the right to stop journalists from undertaking their responsibilities of informing the public. Chairman of the NMC, Yao Bwedu Ayebwafo, tells Joy News his outfit will soon launch an app that will enable the NMC confirm the credibility of the information. There's more in this report by Nicholas Eko Yamwa.
On 7th December, Ghanaians will go to the polls to elect a president and members of parliament to steer the administration of the country. On election day, some journalists faced challenges with security personnel and political party supporters. The safety of journalists is important if they are to work professionally, produce and share information. It is also necessary that journalists go about their reporting duties without facing physical and verbal threats. As the elections draw closer, there have been concerns about the security of journalists in the line of duty on election day. Speaking to Joy News at an interaction between the National Media Commission and the Center for Democratic Development on Abusive Language and Hate Speech Monitoring, Chairman of the NMC, Yao Bwedu Ayebwafo, warned security agencies against abusing journalists before, during and after the elections.
No, we work out the framework of the journalist safety. Yeah, but because of the COVID, COVID stalled, a lot of things. But even before that, we have maintained that the police or the security apparatus have no business stopping any journalist from doing their work for as long as it is in the public sphere, because the Constitution guarantees us the right to do our work as journalists, and so anybody who attempts to interfere with the work of a journalist is interfering with freedom of expression, and we will not surrender to that.
Mr. Ayebwafo also revealed that an app will be rolled out to help determine the credibility of information by the public.
But it is an advantage. You see, what we are going to do this year because of COVID, people cannot assemble in the numbers that usually they do. What we are going to do is that we have this app that when we load it on your mobile phone, wherever you are, if you come across any event, any scene, and you want to capture that, you can capture that and send it to our receiving room. Yeah, the good thing about it is that it's GPS stamped, and it is also dated, so that if you took the photograph, say at the press center, the GPS will show, and then the date will also be there, such that you cannot distort, And so if somebody else brings something that is dissimilar to what is happening, it can be easily found out.
The National Media Commission also asks Ghanaians to be mindful of what they post on social media as we draw closer to the elections. Nicholas Ekoyamwa's report for Joy News.
With just 13 days to the election, roads across the country are going to be extremely busy as various political parties intensify their campaigns to woo Ghanaians for their vote. The festive season will follow weeks after, and studies have shown road traffic accidents rise in Ghana, especially during such periods. Over the weekend, for example, some 6 NDC supporters lost their lives in the Ashanti region on the way to campaign rally in Ejura. For Minister for Special Initiative, Hawa Kumson, none of these events should claim any lives in this country, should all agree to be patient on the road.
I have been involved in accidents somewhere 1997, and I still have the skull of the cats on my forehead. It was a very terrible accident. We lost one life in that accident, and the driver's leg was amputated. So it was a very fatal accident. I want to use this opportunity to advise drivers that as we approach Christmas and also election, we're pleading with them. The Road Safety Authority has been doing this campaign that we should minimize the speed. I always say better late than never. If you drive slowly and get to your destination late, it's better than you not reaching your destination to do whatever you are going there to do. I'll plead with them. I'll plead with them to be very, very careful and take the road safety very serious, especially when you are negotiating curves. Some drivers think they are so perfect and they just negotiate the curve with speed and anything. We're pleading with them. And if there should be any accident, we also want to plead with them. They should ring 112 wherever the ambulance is, it will get them. Because I know the ambulances are around almost all the highways in the country. So when they call 112, immediately there will be an ambulance to rescue the victims, take them to the hospital. So I'm advising them to please drive carefully during this Christmas and before the election and after.
The Komfo-Anokye Teaching Hospital has commissioned a body viewing center, the first in any public facility, to afford family members the opportunity to view the body of their deceased members while at the mortuary without entering the morgue. The center would also afford the members of the public to have private burial services for their deceased relatives and assist the police service in the identification of accident victims. The director of the pathology department, Dr. Ernest Ajay, said the viewing center was in response to demands from clients who requested such services.
Mortuary to check on the bodies of their deceased relatives. They are usually made to enter the morgue to have a look at the body. This practice was not hygienic and safe, hence management's decision to set up the viewing room. With this, relatives can still see the bodies of their loved one without going through the morgue or touching the corpse.
And then lastly is the beautiful design that we have come to see here today. As I indicated, this is the first of its kind as a service, where we are providing officially designed body viewing area for our public and for our security agencies. And as we indicated, the services have actually been graded into various types, which was clearly detailed by the head of directorate. We think that we need to provide a service which has been of need for many years. So relations, loved ones, who through a certain process of permission by the penny or the widow or the widower, then they will organize their own small team to come here and establish a certain bond with their relation that they may have not seen in the last days of his or her departure from the earth. And in this place, we are able to dress the body very nicely for proper identification. People can also organize mini church services here to actually pray for the departed.
Meanwhile, management of the Komfo-Anokye Teaching Hospital has immortalized the longest-serving pathologist in the northern part of the country by naming its refurbished pathology unit after Dr. Kofi Adomako-Boateng.
Dr. Boateng, for many years, was the only pathologist serving the entire central Ghana up to the topmost or the northernmost parts of the country, offering all kinds of pathological services. And I'm happy that we'll be able to honor by naming that block or that center after him. That center has now provided for various services where we are going to be collecting our specimens for all the investigations that we are going to be doing in the pathology or histopathology lab here.
And that's how we end the AMUs. I am Peter CBD.
Well, welcome aboard. It's time for the news review. Thank you for your company. It's 13 days to election 2020. Charlie, Gigi, 13 days to go. We're warming up.
Well, and the NCC says people should get out there and vote on voting day. So I'm rallying support for
We want it to be a
NCCE.
massive turnout like it was in the United States. And finally, somebody is saying that transition, but interesting times. Well, thank you for joining us. Maravi, which papers do you have?
I've got the Daily Graphic newspaper, the Daily Dispatch, the Catalyst, the Daily Heritage, and the Daily Statesman newspaper.
Well, for my end, the Ghanaian Times, the Daily Guide, the Finder, and, the Palaver and the Ghanaian Publisher. So those are the papers I have. Maybe we should start with the Daily Graphic.
Yes, let's do that. Now, who released the data? Who released the data? Who put the data on Google Drive? Well, discussions on handling voters' data underway. It's a headline on the front page of the Daily Graphic newspaper. Also, who wins Northern Region? Is a question. NPP, NDC hold 9 seats each. Nana Kudedu still in presidential race, according to, they say theirs is not General Secretary, Secretary General Alhaji Frimpong, saying there yesterday that the news that Nana Kunedu yesterday was going to announce, or she had decided to get out of the race, is fake news.
You know, I interacted with our very own Parker Wilson, Parker Wilson, and he said, no, that's not what I'm getting from the NDP, but certain portals, prominent portals and other, papers even. I mean, if you recall yesterday, about 2 of the papers had actually captured that she was going to. But it turns out Parker Wilson was right. He had been interacting with the party's leadership, and indeed, that's not the way. But where did they get their information from, though?
Well,
I mean, they were so certain.
Well, remember that Ben F. Singh had been talking about.
But he had been cautious. He had said might.
Yes, he had been talking about why she could get out of the race. I don't know where that emphatic knowledge of she was going to pull out or she had pulled out came from. Well, but we wait to see. I mean, December 7th, but she's going to be on the ballot anyway. Yep. December 7 polls, go out and vote, and CCE rallies electorates. There's a picture of the chairperson, Miss Josephine Nkrumah, on the front page of the paper. Second insightful graphic quarterly review comes out on Thursday. Papers advertising that in the center spread, maintain leadership role during elections. GJA president charges graphic. Rawlins's death must unite us. That's a call from the General Overseer of Action Chapel International, Archbishop Nicholas Duncan Williams. He's expressed the hope that the passing of former President Jerry John Rawlins will unite rather than divide the nation. Be proactive in preventing conflicts. That's the Economic Community of West African States, urging member states to be proactive in preventing conflicts in the sub-region. On the back page, Plant Variety Protection Bill will disadvantage local farmers. CSOs urge President not to assent to writs. The entire story is on the back page of the paper.
Let's check out the Ghanaian Times this morning. Intense campaigning, and talk about intense, even in COVID times. I mean, they're hitting the streets and, going to all parts of the country as presidential candidates canvass for votes. Then CAF boss handed 5-year ban. That story actually on page 22. And I'm beginning to wonder what happens to, our football administrators. Of course, we have the infamous case of a certain Kwesi Nyantechi, number 12, but that's a side issue. I mean, the likes of Sepp Blatter, Michel Platini.
But we also had
now
Issa Hayatou. We didn't see anything like this with Issa Hayatou.
Well, Hayatou, should I say his tentacles were rather, no, but there were issues. Hayatou had come into the fray a number of times. I mean, there had been a lot of
was there an outcome like this? That's the point that I'm trying to make.
That is what I don't necessarily recall. Maybe Oreko Ampofo might help us with that. But I'm just noticing that a lot of the time, football administrators at the highest levels, they seem to, get their comeuppance, and you're beginning to wonder, what is it? Because if you look at this story, I'll not delve into it extensively, but it talks about the fact that the Ethics Committee of FIFA found him guilty of offering and accepting gifts and other benefits and misappropriation of funds.
Yeah.
And I remember since last year there had been this issue that had...
So there's also, those who put the... have to put one or two together. This is Africa, eh?
One or two
even
together.
if it's global, you have to put one or two. They've got elections coming up in March, and some people say he's not necessarily somebody that the FIFA boss likes. So they're putting one or two together.
This is a way of... I don't know, maybe...
But he's been closely watched, if you like, because they've been... I know at some point they said they wanted to improve the governance issues around CAF and all of that. So he was being closely monitored. And if he wasn't careful and, this happened.
But if you know you're being closely monitored, what do you do? 5 disqualified presidential aspirants case, CID requests exhibits from EC, then Ada Traditional Council approves Songo Lagoon Electrochem deal. When you go to page 3, it says trial of alleged killers of Major Mahama resumes December 10. And for some of these issues, you ask yourself, when? Dabenda. I had to, read this one because Hearts, Hearts of Oak faces off with Ash Gold today. And I know some people are quivering in their boots, but we wish them the best. On the back page, Ghana records 5,033 fire outbreaks in 10 months. And that's an 8% rise over last year's figure. And this one, PWDs deplore lack of access to public buildings. Any prediction for the Hearts Ash Gold matchup? I foresee a trouncing for Hearts of Oak, but any predictions from you?
I would do that with my fellow Phobians, not you.
Oh, look into the crystal ball and see something. So that's it with the Ghanaian Times.
Let's do the Daily Dispatch. On the front page, you see this: why Bawumia placed 4th in 2024 flag bearer survey. It's all contained in this book by Benefsin, 2020 Elections, Who Wins, with analysis on who is the most popular person in NPP after Akufo-Addo, and all that you need to know about 2020 and 2016 elections. Okay. And then there's in the inside pages, EC on special voting. Pretty much that's what's in the Daily Dispatch newspaper, the major headlines.
The Daily Guide. NDC questions police election measures. SHS students mob Nana. Konedo's NDP slams NDC. Leave Rawlings alone. And with Akufo-Addo, you don't have to be rich to go to school. That is Freddie Wasimeu Blay. And there's also Veep commissions Nurses College in Bandai. Those stories in the Daily Guide.
Let's do the Daily Heritage. On the front page of the Daily Heritage, on the Japa deal, political scientist Lord's MDC's advocacy. Lawyers' prosecution clash over Volta rebels in courts. Police officers must wear name tags on voting day. NDC to IGP. Ada chiefs expect employment boom as Songo Salt project takes off. That's it for the Daily Heritage. What's on the front page of the paper this morning?
Well, the Finder says EC denies disenfranchising security personnel on special voting list. That's another matter that has come up with regard to the Electoral Commission. There's also 1.4 billion Ghana cedi bailout package for 92,460 customers. 2,220 clients paid 257 million Ghana cedis and more. Excellent WASSCE results shamed free SHS critics, naysayers. That's Akufo-Addo saying that. Something I wouldn't want to get into this morning. Policy rate drops 11%, lending rates down 6.6% between 2017 and 2020. That's according to the Bank of Ghana. And then Dr. Bawumia commissions Tolong District Hospital. But one of those stories that has caught my attention. Page 5, NMC urges media to be sincere and factual. That's coming from the chairman of the National Media Commission, Yaobwedu Ayeboafo. And he is urging journalists in Ghana to be sincere and factual about their reportage during the December election. So there is no conflict and misrepresentation.
All right, let's do the catalysts. Front page. Did I just do that? Okay, yeah. The Catalysts newspaper. Your Sakawa won't work this time. JM to Akufo-Addo. Government 20 million Ghana cedis unpaid debts, collapsing small towns' water systems, according to the paper. Stand your ground. A free Yankra charges NDC folk against the rules. Desperate Akufo-Addo takes campaign to senior high schools. Corruption under Akufo-Addo is not just fighting back, it is easily winning the war. And that's attributed to Professor Kweku Professor Kweku Asare, if you like. That's it for the Catalyst. What's on the front page?
Azza. When you say the Azza, you know, I had a friend back in school. He was called Frank Azza. I would all call him Azza. Just to rile him up. The Ghanaian publisher, Akufo-Addo jabs free SHS naysayers. Excellent WASSCE results have shamed you. NPP women hold Thanksgiving service tomorrow. Adan grateful to government. It has to do with the Songo Lagoon story. And then Monetary Committee keeps policy rate at 14.5%. But you need to break it down to find out what exactly that means for you. Lending rate and all of that. But how does that affect, what happens when you go to the bank for, any such facility? You should be concerned about that. That's it with the publisher newspaper.
Let me do my last
publisher.
Newspaper. All right, the last newspaper for me is the Daily Statesman. On the front page, you'd see this. 2020 WASSCE results. Shame, and shame is in quotes, free SHS critics. Akufo-Addo says NPP has got the plan for Ghana's development. More jobs expected at Adan from Songo Salt projects. Climate change fights. Low temperature thermal decomposition system unveiled. And leave my late husband alone. Grieving Mrs. Rawlings descends on Mahama and the NDC. All right, that's it. The paper that I've just been reviewing for you, the Daily Statesman. Then?
My final one will be the new palaver. It's stopping the annual ritual of market fires, and that has become our reality. Very recently, we saw that one in Odona. AU urges Ghana to ensure violence-free elections. And, of course, this also captured their belated happy birthday to Professor Nana Jane Opoku Agyeman. Now, December 7 polls defeat staring MPP in the face, interfering with former special prosecutor's work. How the NPP ran to the special prosecutor with fake petitions against Mahama. And then Kennedy Japan has no honor or integrity, Martin Amidu. Palava, no honor or integrity. And how NPP ran, that should have been an RAN. Anyway, so those are the stories in there. Shall we dig in?
Yes, we shall. And I've just opened to page 20, the Daily Graphic newspaper. And the story really is discussions on handling voters' data underway. And I got interested because the Director General of the DPA, that's the Data Protection Agency, has been talking to the Daily Graphic newspaper, but essentially reacting to citizens' reaction to the data.
Reacting to the reactions.
Exactly.
Yeah,
but I did hear, even though we know the Electoral Commission has not come out formally to say they didn't put the data out, but somebody did hinted that Electoral Commission didn't do it. So, but we haven't seen a statement, like I said. But Miss Edusei Poku has been talking to the Daily Graphic, and she says that although the EC might have legal backing to publish the voters' register, there was the need to consider individuals' right to privacy in doing so. I assume that the EC has an enabling law that allows it to work in certain ways, possibly publishing the electoral register. Many countries have their electoral registers published, so it is not unusual. However, beyond the delivery of the legal mandates, even if there is a law that allows you to do what you have done, you should look at other ways of improving transparency and fairness in the processing of personal data. And that's a quote directly from Ms. Edusei Poku, who's been talking about the legality versus privacy issue that people essentially have been raising.
Right. And my concern, though, the fact that she uses the word assume. I assume that the EC has, that raises some question marks.
You wanted her to be more
yes, because if you're assuming, it could be either here or there. So it's a bit problematic. But the fact is that the sort of information they put out, people were lamenting when we were on the, message board yesterday. People were talking about the fact that there's a lot of fraudulent activity going on nowadays. You get all kinds of messages on your phones. You slip up, you're in a mess, So we ought to be very cautious about some of these matters. And this wouldn't be the first time that data issues have come up with regard to the Electoral Commission. So we need to know, really. I think we need more education. And
so
this is where,
there is a legal practitioner speaking in the same story.
Right.
You want me to? Let me say a bit.
Then we should
so
take
that's
that and
Albert Koshiga saying that there was nothing unlawful or wrong with the publication of the voters register on the EC's website. Instead of criticizing the EC, he said the electoral management body should be lauded for adding another layer of transparency to its work by publishing the register on its website. He said the EC had always made the electoral register public, and therefore its decision to add its website as another medium to make the register public deserve commendation.
My only issue here, and I'll go back to it, the NCCE, and this is where you would wish they were better resourced. I'm saying that the Electoral Commission, the NCCE, when you're going to add this extra layer, inform the people. The EC has done incredibly well in these engagements with the people, let the people know and all of that. What would it have taken to let the people know that, this year we're going the extra mile to do this, and it's in your best interest. And in fact, this is what the law says on that. Would it have been, you could have prevented all of this. I think some of the assaults, verbal and otherwise on the Electoral Commission is self-inflicted. We could have avoided this completely.
I think that, people have also been citing what happens in the UK where the register is given to, the parties concerned, as in full register, but when they want to put it out there like we have done, those who want to be anonymous, if you don't want your name to be out there, it would not be out there.
I have
the
same as well.
Okay, so that's the bit about that in the Daily Graphic then.
Let's do page 3 of the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Justice delayed, justice denied, they say. Well, I'll go to this one. Trial of alleged killers of Major Mahama resumes on December the 10th. And parties in the case of 14 alleged murderers of the late Major Maxwell Adam Mahama have agreed for the trial to resume on December 10, 2020. Now, the parties agreed that hearing notices should be taken to authorities of the Ghana Prison Service for the release of accused persons for continuation of the trial. Now, Mrs. Evelyn Kielsen, Chief State Attorney, told the GNA that there should be an arrangement at the prison for the accused to be screened after each court appearance because of the large number. For me, the delay in the matter, it said that, the wheels of justice grind slowly, but I don't know. I really don't know with instances such as this. And I'll keep mentioning this one. You remember the one Gregory Afoko is involved in, the acid pouring bit. Recently, people were saying he was dead. Family came out to say he wasn't dead. There's the one with JB Dankwa Edu. Sure. There's the one with Hussein Swale, Hassan Swale, Ahmed Swale, I should say. And all of these, and you begin to ask yourself, when exactly are we going to get some closure to these matters? There was a time when I looked at the timelines, and you look at the years. It's been years for each of them already. And our legal processes, I'm not lambasting the system, but I'm saying that sometimes it's grievous when you have to see these things come up over and again without any conclusion to the matters. But just an update on those 5 people who are hoping there'll be a different turnout to their disqualification by the Electoral Commission. The CID has requested exhibits from the Electoral Commission on the back of that to assist in investigations into alleged forged documents against 5 disqualified presidential aspirants. And that petition from the EC to this follows an official petition from the EC to the CID to investigate Mr. Kofi Kranting, Marek Kofi Gane, both independent candidates, then Akwesi Adai Odike of the UPP, Kwesi Busumuru of the PAP, and Nana Ejenim Boateng of the UFP. So I guess now the ball is in the court of the Electoral Commission to provide the evidence. He who alleges must prove.
Absolutely.
So that's it with the Ghanaian Times newspaper.
Should we go to My Joy Online, or you've got something in the Daily Guide?
Maybe we can do My Joy Online, and if there's anything else, maybe we can do
There's a response. There's a story or a statement from the NCA that's on myjoyonline.com. If we can go there now, it will be good, so we can absorb, quite a bit on myjoyonline.com. And then we will also look at the BBC, because Trump, there is a latest move by Mr. Trump that's making way for the transition process to begin, even though he insists that he's still going to fight the court battle. And how did he even do it? It was in a tweet. And people are saying, listen, he could wake up today and say that, you know what? The earlier tweet, this is another tweet that...
This tweet counters my earlier tweet.
Thank you. So this is a story on myjoyonline.com that I thought we could look at, the one with the former president's image. We don't have the ability to jam or interfere with broadcasting signals. NCA replies John Dramani Mahama. And if you go into the details of the story, it says that the National Communications Authority has rejected claims that it is interfering with broadcasting and internet services in the country. In a statement issued by the authority and cited by Joy News, the public was urged to disregard any allegations made to that effect. And if you fast forward, the story says that in the Facebook Live session on Sunday, November 22, Mr. Mahama alleged that his interviews with Kumasi-based Ebusia FM some weeks ago were compromised after the frequency of the station was jammed by the NCA. I'm also aware, and here's a quote, I'm also aware of what they did to Joy when they were going to broadcast that investigative piece on the national lotteries. Joe Anoche is handling the NCA as a political office. I think on election day, they can shut down the internet or any of the things dictators do. I hope we win and stop all that, on quotes. So that's what the NCA is responding to. So they say the former president, the allegations are completely unfounded. And according to the authority, it does not have the capability to block, jam, or interfere with broadcasting signals. They say as a telecommunications and broadcasting regulator, and in line with global best practice, the NCA has frequency spectrum monitoring equipment whose ability is limited to receiving signals and detecting their source, but not to jam them. There's plenty more. You can open up the story and read a lot more. But let's go back to the rest of the stories on myjoyonline.com. All right, shall we look at what else we have on our page today? You'd see this on 2020 elections. 2020 elections not governed by CI 91. That law is outdated, Otokno tells MPPs Nemako. I wonder where they were battling. This came up, but listen, if you're curious, as I am, you can click on the story and read some more. This one says, Rawlings wanted NDC to lose 2020 elections. Yesterday, if you listened to the NDP's press conference, and I'm sure that you did because we broadcast that live here, Charlie, some serious jabs, serious revelations, all targeted at the NDC and its presidential candidates and their hoists, because there was a direct mention of them. But right after that, the NDC's communication team, its communication officer, issued a statement and says, don't comment on any of NDP's allegations. It's just a diversionary tactics, if you like. So that's what Sami Jemfi is saying, the details of that on our page. We are not against decision to name UDS after Rawlings. Oh, that's the family saying that, because we know that Mr. Rawlings himself did not like that. Not one bit. Okay. Nana Konadu-Agyeman Rawlings has not withdrawn from presidential race. Running mates NDP. All right. And then Mahama exploiting Rawlings' death for political gain. NDP jabs hypocritical NDC. And then 1 dead, 23 injured after car run into NDC peace walk at Elembele. This is also another tragic story because we know that over the weekend, 6 of their members also died in that accident with many
others injured.
Exactly. And then, this one also just happened right after that. Yeah, and then Laura NPP chairman attacked, robbed of campaign pickup. If you check the details on our page, it will tell you that the incident attributed to Deputy Minister of Roads, Anthony Cabo's men. That's what they say in the story, that they took his pickup. And there are issues surrounding that. Well, essentially, there are issues in the constituency.
There are issues
with the party, the chairman, and the other side.
Yep.
Let me just put it that way. You can go to my jawline and read the rest of the story.
Let me quickly do this before we go, though. Stonebwoy has finally got that citation for his Grammy nomination, going all the way back to 2018, and he's actually #1 in the trends this morning. And some people are jabbing the likes of Sarkodie. I don't know why people are like this.
Why do people do that?
People are saying 20 years on, Charlie, the man still, the Grammy no come. But guess what is trending at #10?
What?
Jesus.
What?
Jesus is trending at #10.
Is it just
people? No, not Jesus.
As in Jesus Christ?
Yes, and people are quoting verses of scripture. And you know how some, organically some of these things can trend? Well, you should check it out. Interesting developments on Twitter today.
Okay, this is where we have to end it. You can get plenty more stories on myjawline.com, and you can also check out what Mr. Trump's been up to. Transition now beginning. Stay with us. We've got sports coming up right after this.
Hello, good morning and welcome to the sports segment with me, Oreko Ampofo. Hope you had a fantastic evening. Well, we do start from the local front, and what has been a trending issue from last weekend has to do with Ghana Premier League clubs and whether they could record their football matches. Now, this is from the fact that the Ghana Football Association did put out a communique, saying that, clubs cannot record matches due to the rights that Star Times, who are the official TV broadcasters, do have with them, and would violate that contract. So there was a little, back and forth between clubs and then the Ghana Football Association. So a meeting was set yesterday, which did take place in the afternoon. And what did come out of that is that clubs are now free to record. We do have more details for you in this report.
The meeting, held via video call, had chief executive officers of clubs participating. Joy Sports understands there was a unanimous voice from the Premiership clubs as they kicked against the directive of the governing body barring them from videotaping matches for non-commercial use. The directive led to a hard-hitting response from Asante Kotoko, who described the move of the FA as absurd, primitive and backward. The position of Kotoko was initially backed by 7 clubs, but it appears they had more support on Monday as all others showed solidarity with the record Premier League champions. Asante Kotoko also demanded a copy of the contract between the GFA and Star Times, but that was not made available to members. The Porcupine Warriors continue to insist they need a copy of the agreement reached between the Chinese broadcaster and the football governing body. Secretary General of the association, Prosper Harrison Addo, per Joy Sports sources, said he had no power to make available the contract to members. It is unclear when the contract will be given to Kotoko, but what is definite is that the Porcupines will not renege on their request. Joy Sports sources say the clubs will formally petition GFA for a copy of the contract after the FA failed to show signs of willingness to avail a copy to members at the meeting. Mediama is believed to be a notable club backing the demand for the contract.
Well, still on the Ghana Premier League, and let's move to Karela, who have started the season pretty well. They did win last week against Inter Allies, but they did play on a new AstroTurf pitch, and this was part of a sponsorship package that they received from GMPC.
Sponsorship package between the two parties is worth $300,000 for the next 3 years. It will be $100,000 annually for the Ghana Premier League club. The package is a fulfillment of a promise made to the club by board chairman of GMPC, Freddie Blay, in March 2019. Chief Executive Officer of GMPC, Dr. KK Sapon, revealed the package during the first home game of the club this season.
GMPC is providing $100,000 a year for the next 3 years for this club. It is important that we really help the club to survive and help many potential footballers from this area.
Dr. Sapon also announced that GMPC will partner Ghana Gas to provide an academy facility for the club.
We are going to work with Ghana Gas to ensure that the youth academy of the club is provided facilities. It is our belief that the young talents from this area can harness for the benefit not only to their families, but also to our country in general.
Maintenance culture of facilities across the country has been a major problem. Board member of Karola FC, Kwesi Bonzo, promised GMPC they would do all they can to ensure the facility is in good shape.
Our biggest task is to ensure that the pitch is properly maintained so that it will last as long as the club also lasts, as long as football lasts in this district. So we have taken up upon ourselves that after every match day, together with the Karola United Football Club, we ensure that everything that is needed to be done to enhance the maintenance of the facility will be done. Added to that, myself, I'm a board member of Karola, so we are going to ensure that that facility will not suffer the fate of lack of maintenance, and that GMPC will be proud to add more.
Karola opened their first game of the Premier League season at the Camp Park with a 1-0 win over Inter Allies.
Well, yesterday we brought you reaction of Abusua Drafts coach Ernest Thompson after his side 2-0 lost against 11 Wonders. Let's now hear from him again before we tell you what the FA has done concerning the situation.
Let me say, officiating to me, no. This level of officiating in the Premier League, no. This level of officiating I don't think is the best for our league. This call for the penalty, the first one, the player had his hand right on the body, which to me, he never extended the arm. So what was the call for the penalty? Secondly, we had those kind of calls. He ignored them. At the point, the referee, where he was even facing the ball, had to turn to ask a linesman. What kind of officiating was that? The calls were so miserable.
Okay.
The officiating, no.
Okay. You think the officiating really let your team down today, or you just did not play well?
The officiating actually made my boys not to play well, because any tackle that goes against them is whistled as a play on, but anything against us is whistled, to the extent that we even had to go in for a red card. The same player whose hand was on the side of the body that the ball hit, you gave him a yellow card for that offense against us, fine, and then you took another a red card for this offense. No.
Okay.
No, we need to up our game in the officiation.
Dwarfs would have to go back to Cape Coast. Obviously, there are other matches coming up. How are you going to get this team re-motivated for your next encounter?
Well, we just have to put this behind us and then forge ahead and think about the next game. We can't be crying over spilled milk. We just have to focus and keep our eye on the next game. But I had this cry over officiating before I came. I made that comment that the last year we came here, same happened. We scored a good goal, it was disallowed. So on certain grounds, penalty kicks and other things are not taken for the home team. It's bad, but no problem. We are going back to the drawing board and we'll come back stronger.
Well, there have been consequences, and the Ghana Football Association has referred the Abusua Drafts coach Ernest Thompson to the disciplinary committee for the comments made from the video that we just watched against referee Joshua Samaji. Now, that was on his performance during the game between Techiman 11 Wonders and Abusua Drafts on match day 2 at the Ohene Amirial Park in Techiman. Now, before the commencement of the season, club officials and all participants of the game were reminded to be mindful of disparaging comments about referees and match officials. Complaint forms were made available to clubs as a means of addressing incidents during matches, where clubs are to fill the form, indicate time, incident, culprits, and submit to the match review panel. Within 48 hours, after the said match. Now, the match review panel will then review the performance of the referee or match official and issue a decision on the said incident. Clubs are to also urge to use the appropriate channel and forum within 48 hours after a match to address all grievances rather than resorting to making comments in the media. Let's now move from Ghana and talk about African sports, because there has been a big story coming in from yesterday, and that has to do with Confederations of African Football President Ahmad Ahmad, who announced his bid to seek in re-election next CAF elections, and now he cannot do so because he has been banned for 5 years by FIFA for breaching various codes of ethics. So that was the big story there. He's been banned, and the decision-making body of the Independent Ethics Committee found Ahmad Ahmad, who's the president of the Confederations of African Football and vice president of FIFA, guilty of violations of Article 15, that's the duty of loyalty. Now, Article 20 was also violated, as offering an acceptance of gifts and other benefits. And then there was also a violation of Article 25, that's the abuse of office of the FIFA Code of Ethics, that's a 2020 edition, as well as Article 28, that's misappropriation of funds of the 2018 edition of the said code. Now, the investigation into Mr. Ahmad's conduct while serving as CAF president between 2017 and 2019 is related to various governance issues related to CAF, including the organization and financing of an Umrah pilgrimage to Mecca, his participation in CAF negotiations with the sports equipment company, Tactical Steel, and other activities. Now, after a lengthy hearing, the decision-making body found that based on the information collected by the investigating body and in violation of the provisions of the FIFA Code of Ethics, Mr. Ahmad had failed in his duty of loyalty, offered gifts and other benefits, embezzled funds, and abused his position as president of CAF. Consequently, the decision-making body found that Mr. Ahmad had violated Articles 15, 20, and 25 of the current edition of the FIFA Code of Ethics, as well as Article 28 of the 20 edition, and has banned him from participating in football-related activities, thus administrative, sports, or otherwise, for 5 years, both nationally and internationally. In addition, a fine of 200 CFAs has been imposed on him. 200,000 francs, sorry. Now, the decision was notified to Mr. Ahmad today, and the date on which his department takes effect. Now, in accordance with Article 78, Paragraph 2 of the FIFA Code of Ethics, as the reasoned decision will be notified to Mr. Ahmad within the next 60 days, after which it will be published on legal.fifa.com. Let's now do some boxing, and boxing promotion company Box Office Promotions has launched Knockout COVID-19 Fight Night following the easing of restrictions on contact sports.
Promotion have teamed up with Boxing Office Promotion to unearth boxing talent in Ghana. The event, which is scheduled for November 29, 2020, is under the theme Knockout COVID-19. CEO of Box Office Promotion, Alex Ntiamwa, has outlined the COVID-19 protocols the boxers will have to undertake before fighting on the night.
COVID-19 test is being catered for by government, and so we've written to the GBA with all the list. That's the reason why it's taking some time before we are able to announce the boxes, because you need to submit all the names. You know, sometime back you can have a show of which you can have a boxer against a TBA to be announced boxer, but now you need to submit all the names so that the GBA can be assured who and who will be fighting on the night. And then what they will do is they've written to the National Sports Authority, to the Sports Ministry. So a week before the show, they'll be tested and they have to be quarantined for a week before the fight, so that at least they will not be contaminated with other people. So that is what we have now. So we're looking, the next 4 days, they will take the test and it will be a rapid test for them. And then we have to make sure we take care of them for some time before the fight. So actually that is the arrangement that we have for now.
Corporate Affairs and Legal Director for Ace Power Promotion, Kizito Akudago, who was also present at the launch of the boxing event, also had this to say.
The main aim of Ace is to promote boxing in Ghana and to give the young ones an opportunity to be able to unearth their talent in boxing. So this particular bout was organized with the main aim of giving them that platform to be able to exchange or at least prove their talent and ability in boxing. You know, Ghana, boxing has been one of our major sports. And for a long time now, we haven't had the opportunity of exhibiting that talent by letting or giving the exposure to the young ones to become world champions. So ACE is in the industry this time around to promote boxers and to be able to win a world champion for Ghana.
We go with just a quick announcement that yesterday the British Prime Minister Boris Johnson did announce that up to 4,000 spectators would be allowed at Premier League matches in areas where there is minimum risk, and it is tier 1 in terms of COVID-19 and how it's affected that area. So it would depend on the risk involved, and if it's a tier 1, then there will be 4,000 spectators allowed. And now this would be only after the month lockdown that should end in December 2nd, and from then clubs could allow up to 4,000 spectators. But where we would not be seeing spectators is tonight at the Accra Sports Stadium, when Accra Heart of Oak played their first game of the 2021 Ghana Premier League. And as you can see behind me, the match is 24th November. There would be live commentary on Joy 99.7 FM. Would Ash Gold cause a bit of an upset and secure the first away win of the Ghana Premier League? Or will Accra House of Folk start on a positive note? Remember, they're celebrating their 109th birthday. Could this possibly be the season when they end their 10-year drought? Well, we'll find out live on Joy 99.7 FM at 7 p.m. when the match does kick off. My name is Oreku Ampofo. That's the sports for now, and the AM show continues right after this.
Well, before we bring you election headquarters, let me acknowledge that that was the investigative piece by Kwete Nate. He returned to the London beaches to discover how middlemen are hijacking a product meant for poor fishermen. And that was the outcome of his investigation. Right now, though, with 13 days to the presidential parliamentary elections, we're focusing our attention on violence, security, and specifically in Zongo communities. My guest in studio is Sheikh Arimial Shaibu. Well, he speaks for the National Chief Imam, not in this context. He's a member of the National Peace Council, and he's also with CODEO. So very good morning to you.
Good morning.
You're wearing your CODEO hat and your National Peace Council hat this morning on this conversation. Thank you so much for your time.
A pleasure.
Yeah. Maybe I can start with 2016 and whether or not there was a specific, which I know is a yes, there was some specific interventions with regard electoral violence towards the elections before, during, and after. What's the plan this year in 2020?
Thank you very much. We are very conscious that with the approach of any election season, tensions goes up, and the issue of violence and security, take the center stage in our public discourse. And the Muslim community, no doubt, is one of the target areas because the perception or the reality that the Zongos become an easy source for the supply of violence. That is the truth. That is the truth. Not the only Zongo, but at least it's also a reality that in Zongo we supply this. Consciousness is growing about the negativity, and we are trying to solve this. So in 2016, for example, I happily mentioned that between the Chief Imam's outfit and the Christian Council, there was a joint program aimed at addressing violence generally. But there were aspects that were sort of targeted at the Muslim community, did in Kumasi, in Tamale, in Ho specifically, in Accra here, taking the form of public lectures, events, peace walks, and so on and so forth. This year, because of difficulty in funding, we have not been able to do so. But on our own, having consciousness about the issue, we have begun doing a lot of workshops for imams, engagement with the youth, raising the consciousness of the imams to make the issue of non-violence and the issue of security a subject for sermons for every Friday, because we know that our youth, whatever the situation they are in, they are very, very religious. And so every Friday you are sure to get all the Muslim young people in the mosque. So we focus on the imams and conscientize them to do that. In the lead up to the 2020 elections, in fact, 2 weeks ahead, we are intensifying such programs. The last one we did, for example, where the Chief Imam was there to offer the opening prayer, was to bring imams and opinion leaders within our communities together. The Muslim community leadership at different levels. You have the traditional leadership, the chiefs, and then the imams are also on the one side. And indeed, even clerics who are those who teach in the Makaranta, for example, which is, in fact, the first point of a child's Muslim consciousness within the Muslim community, and that's where they are raised up from the beginning. So we get such clerics also to begin to build up the consciousness of young people, particularly where we have reached now, and I say strongly, that we are trying to build a mentality that rejects violence. Rather, we promote non-violence mentality and we discourage violence mentality for whatever reason. Yeah, that is something, and leading up to election, that is the strongest message we are giving. So that, like I keep on repeating, I want every young person in general, but particularly the Muslim young person, to reject the mentality of violence as a means of obtaining political power, and also to resist attempt by politicians to use them as tools for political violence.
Yeah, but in a season like this, there's a lot of money. And money attracts.
Yes.
And we've talked about how young people are also jobless in some instances where they don't have anything to do. And so if you're idle and somebody has some money, which you obviously would like, then you're attracted to what they want you to do for them.
Yeah.
So in essence, I guess I'm asking, what are we doing to keep them occupied so that they are not idle?
Yeah, I mean, 100% you are right. I like quoting the preamble to the UNESCO Constitution that in part, which says that since war begins in the minds of men, it is in the minds of men that the defenses of peace must be constructed. So it means that it begins in the mind. If we get our young people well educated and they become more enlightened and understand a sense of life, indeed, I would say strongly that the enlightened mind will reject violence, regardless. I mean, maybe you and I, let's say we're giving birth to our children. We don't have the whole of the world at our disposal. But I'm sure our children no politician can get our children on the street. Because these are educated children, enlightened. They've gotten to university. Some of them are in the senior high school. I mean, they have focus. They really want to. And so one of the things that we are doing now is to really, really encourage our young people to get educated. Now that these free SHS, putting aside the politics of it, I mean, the free SHS, no Muslim child, for example, can drop out of school on grounds of poverty. I mean, so once you get them to that level, then now we are expanding, taking advantage of the Zongo Development Fund to get scholarships. you know, to get them all something to do.
So I guess this is more of a long-term plan to kind of change the mentality.
Seriously, because once you get them, even I mean, vocational training, for example, is something that, so if you have not had the opportunity to maybe get this higher education, we put price and value on vocational training, that one can do vocational training and still make money and live good life. So that this old mentality of because you are a mechanic, I mean, you are anybody who is not intelligent. I mean, how can you have somebody who touches your engine, sparks your engine, and tell me he's not intelligent? I mean, you as a doctor, you hold your doctorate, you're a professor, something small, just a wire in your cars, you know, you are unable to do it. And the young man who comes to do it is because he's unintelligent. It's very illogical.
The irony of.
So we want our young people to come to that understanding. You know, avoid this short-term, you know, short way of getting money and be patient with life. I tell my small boy, one day we were just driving in a car and I like listening to Pastor Mensa Otabil. Okay. I listen to him. So when the car and he ended his sermon, his teaching, and then he said, don't rush in life, go through the experience. So my small boy was just in front. I said, hey, Abdullah, have you, just listen. Have you heard what he said? Don't rush in life, go through the experience. And I think that is what we want our young people to come to terms with, that life is a journey. And through life, as you journey in life, you make progress. The progress comes with patience. And God has a destiny for everybody, that if you identify the area of God's destiny in your life and you are patient, you will get there. Rushing through life is what will make people give you money for a very short term. In fact, sometimes they expose you to very reckless and dangerous life that destroys your life for life, destroys you for life. Some of them get maimed. In fact, after they have been maimed, the politicians leave them helpless to themselves. There are examples. I mean, they just forget about them. I mean, just imagine the young man who lost his eyes and afterwards he died. I mean, it's one of our political, very painful things to mention. Yeah, I mean, who cared for him after he suffered that kind of plight? But these are people who give themselves, they are party loyalists, they are giving some little money. Yeah, so I want any Zongo person particularly, but generally any young person never to, you see, reduce the value of his life to those little things which the politicians, and I say strongly, exploit the vulnerability. Ex-politicians, and I think it's unjust and unfair for any politician to take advantage of the vulnerability of a young person just because he could not make it in life. I mean, you just give him something and then expose him to that danger. Danger where your biological children will not be exposed to. None of them, I say strongly, none of them will bring their own children in the front line.
That reminds me, was it Professor Asante, the Peace Council chair, outgone, former, who said that when they come to you and ask you to take part in violence-related activities, ask them where their own children are. Yes. Because they wouldn't bring their own children.
No, they have educated them. They've exposed them to greater opportunities. They have done masters. They are done degree. They have done that. And they live good life. They travel outside the country. They do all those things. Yeah? So instead of you to help this young person, you know, unearth his potential and guide him to a life of progress where he is very reflective, use his vulnerability and bring him out to demonstrate disorder, indiscipline. He can ban things, threaten our security, create fear, intimidate, use him for revenge, vengeful activities, and so on and so forth. That's what our politicians are doing. Painfully, I say this, painfully. I mean, many of them are my friends. Very, very, very good friends. But I say with pain, because I will not allow my child to be turned into these tools. Neither will I also encourage my son or my daughter. And I see my daughter and my son in any of such young people that have been exposed to this. And that's why my heart bleeds. My heart bleeds. You see, Mama V, both Christianity and Islam have certain very beautiful principles. Biblically, we talk about the Ten Commandments. And these are moral virtues I've learned. Now, if you apart from the first one, the most important, the second one comes second as important. Love thy neighbor as thyself. And in this particular principle is the principle of justice and fairness, that do unto others what you wish for yourself. And Islam also says that if you believe in Allah in the last day, never hurt your neighbor. Never hurt your neighbor. And this neighbor here has a broad connotation. It's a broad connotation. It's not just small area where you live, those that you can see. It's talking about the next person to you. And that definition is wide. Even when you sit in Trotro, I mean, who are your neighbors? If you live in a compound house, in your office, maybe in this whole studio, I mean, you are my neighbor. All these studio people are my neighbors. He said, I should not hurt them. I should not hurt them. So why is it that you're hurting somebody's son? But then you don't hurt your son. Because somebody's son is vulnerable. So you misuse him, and he becomes a threat to our country. Because after the election, he becomes a threat to our country. You teach him how to be indisciplined. You teach him how to insult, how to taunt people. Elders in our community are suffering insults because of our political thing, the way we do it. It's painful. As somebody growing, getting into the elderly, this thing, I sometimes reflect, it gives me worry. I mean, the kind of country and community we are bequeathing, to the younger generation.
Yeah.
All our values are just on the platform of politics. It's very bad.
Absolutely. Just also want to say that we've got our cameras in the Upper East region where Maxwell Agbagba is. So he'll be interacting with some persons. When we have that feed, we'll bring it to you on the same conversation. But you are an election observer. And when I say you, I'm talking about Cordeo. Yes. Is there a specific plan with just about 13 more days to the polls?
Oh yes, I mean I think a couple of months ago we inaugurated our plan for this year's election. It began with the training of those that we call regional coordinators. Of course, they help us to select people and deploy them for our observation. We have put in place our plan for the PVT. We are also doing peace and civic education as part of one of the key elements of our. We've also been engaging in what we call the pre-election political environment assessment, and based on which we give our reports. For example, we have done the last one. Now, getting to election, I'm sure the second, the final one will come up.
Okay.
For us to be able to say what is the situation, how tensed it is, and so
it doesn't feel so tense, does it?
Currently, let me say, paradoxically, once I sympathize with the family of our former president, you see, he's passing away as if has come to us with a certain blessing. Because the whole country have him at heart. We all love him. And he is respectable, the reverence, the memories of the good things that he has done. So in respect of that, the whole state, even politicians have to withhold, suspend campaigns. And for me, it brought down the tension. It's picking up again. And thanks to COVID, mixed blessings. COVID did not allow us to go,
So we're a bit measured, is that what you're saying?
Yes. And then let me commend you, the media people. In fact, Joy News particularly and other stations. You know what you have done this year? You have been very, very helpful. You see, you arrested the center of our national discourse. And you compelled politicians to really discuss issues like your manifesto tracker and those things. So, you see, you lose it if you leave your manifesto and you become personal and you are insulting and polluting the environment. And I think the media has done well here. Yeah. So they didn't get a chance to be insulting, to be doing their big rallies, but that they focused. And that's what it's about, records. And records, so you leave the voters to now assess you on grounds of what you have done before and what you say you intend to do. If it meets our expectation, we say, look, this is the one we should vote for. And so, but you know the fears. I will not hide that one. You know, there is an over-enthusiastic party loyalist. They are still there. Now they have been given this slogan. Election is won at the polling station. Elections are won at the polling station. Yeah. So, in the name of vigilance, or if you like, over-vigilance, we're likely to see, and that is why hotspots have been, identified where such things can easily happen. We can easily, in the name of vigilance, we can slip into violence, and where, in our political discourse, we have maintained this mentality of violence. The mentality of violence is still some of the things that you hear some politicians, are saying. Yeah, and so it's the election day for me. That is where the action will be, and that's where we need to be very, very.
That's also a worry because we have plenty polling stations this time around.
Plenty, exactly.
So many more polling stations in each constituency.
Yes.
So what are you advocating? What should we be doing?
No, I think that the security arrangement is what needs to be stepped up, but also done in such a way that it is professional. I'll be very honest. We don't want to see what happened during the Iowa Super Bowl. Yeah. We must be honest. We must be honest. Yeah. You saw a situation where even the command chain, was scattered. I mean, it's uncoordinated. You clearly, clearly, we did not see the report, that came out, how it was applied, all left people with certain doubts in their minds as to whether our security will be able to handle. And for us, from angle of CODEO, from the angle of Chief Imam spokesperson, from the angle of Peace Council, and from the angle of a peace advocate, I think we want to call on the police. In fact, we have met the police at different fora, and they have given us a very comprehensive plan for action. But that is one thing. On the day of action, that is also can be something different. So we want them to really be well coordinated. And when something goes wrong, so we can point at one person and say, look, this man is the one who gave the command. And then we can take him, for accountability and so on and so forth. And then secondly, I think we should go on from now on to intensify our advocacy for nonviolence. That is important. We need to target political actors, to commit themselves to peace and to know what
Haven't they done that already?
I mean, some years back they did, but still, since we know as human as we are, we must continue taking doses of the medicine that will lead us to peace. So we should target them. I think that we should have the courage also to speak to power where we think that things are not right. Because, politics will go and we are the same people. So it is we who get hurt. And I say that, you see, violence does a lot of damage to the very spirit and destiny of a community. I think people underestimate the evils of violence. Because violence is antithetic to peace. And peace is the original pure state that God gave to us. And it's essential for us to grow, to develop, for community to flourish, to thrive, for community to see God's own goodness for us. It happens within this ambience of peace. So any person who is violent is anti-progress, anti-well-being of human being. And what he does a damage to the very core of society. You see, violence crashes, it breaks, it maims, it divides, it leaves people with pain, painful memories, and so on. You see, when people don't analyze violence, so actually when I see a politician who promotes violence, I feel sad. And such politicians will come after they have won, then they talk about unity. After they themselves have caused the division, they have caused the pain. When they win election, now they talk about unity. When they are exiting from politics, they become statesmen. I have listened a few, sometimes it's so ridiculous. I mean, when they were active in politics, you saw what they did. Now they are growing above 60, they are getting out now, they don't want to compete again. And then when they come on television, they say, you know what, I want to establish an NGO. You see, we have to advocate for. I sit back and say, oh God. So you've done this damage, you've wounded our society. For your personal gain, now you are going out, so now you have seen the wrongs. I would have wished such people would get back to their colleagues, their cohorts, and tell them, in fact, that you know what we have done to our country? I feel guilty. I feel very guilty for what I have done before. Look, you are still in it. Never do it.
The fear also is, they would say when they've got the cameras on them, they will say all the nice things that you want them to either commit to or say. But there is a different thing that they do. There's a different language that they use when they are talking to these young people.
Yes.
And I think it's important, the issue of the polling station and being vigilant and overdoing it.
Exactly.
So when we come back, because I want us to go to the ground, to the Upper East region, my colleague Maxwell Agbagba is on standby to talk to some of these persons about electoral violence and security. We'll come back and check out if there is a plan at all, seeing that we'll have a lot more polling stations in terms of the monitoring. How do we intend doing that? But Maxwell, a very good morning to you. Tell us exactly where you are and start the conversation.
Well, Mama View, we are in a community called Sumbrungu. It's just about 200 meters away from the Bolga Technical University. And we'll be speaking to some people who are here this morning to buy from their favorite watch seller, who is just behind me here. We'll also be speaking to some riders, some drivers of, they call it, you call it yellow, right? Yeah, so some yellow riders also, drivers also, we'll be speaking to them, popularly called Bahama Kambu. We're speaking to them to find out from them what they think, we can do to stop electoral violence. Let me speak to this man who just bought some wachi. How you doing?
I'm doing well.
All is well here in Upper East?
Yes.
Okay. Great. Tell me, election 2020 is just some days away. What can we do to prevent electoral violence?
I think the solution to electoral violence should be everybody should campaign well, and the election day, especially the 7th December, anybody that is coming to vote should come and then vote, then go. They should avoid those who, especially the candidates toying at the polling station, they should avoid those ones, and then they should let everybody understand that elections is about numbers, and then they should come and then do their voting and go, and forget about roaming around the polling stations, and others will bring certain things and then they will be agitating, my candidate. They should leave that. They should leave those things, because Ghana is for us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I've heard some politicians telling their candidates, their supporters actually, that after voting they should stay there, and observe the process. But some very good politicians tell their supporters that they can go home, and then when it's time for counting, they can come and then come and observe the counting. What do you think? How do you think politicians? What do you think is the best way? In addressing issues of electoral violence, especially from the perspective of the politicians.
Okay, I think those who are saying that they should go home, when they vote they should go, that one is a good move. Because people, when they are gathered, many there they begin to do arguments and then misunderstanding here and there. But if they go home and the counting time is near, they can come around and witness and go. That one, it will be better than loitering around. So for me in particular, I will encourage those who say they should go home, that they should go home. Everybody, if you vote, go home. And if time is near, you can just come around. Then we'll count. Everything will be peaceful.
Okay. Thank you very much for talking to us. Okay, great. So now let's move and speak to some yellow riders here. This is like a yellow station. If you want to board this Mahama Kambu, this is where you come. And this guy is just cleaning his Mahama Kambu, making sure that it looks very, squeaky clean and attractive. Let's speak to these guys here. Hello. Hi, good morning. How is life treating you? How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing fine. How are you too?
Okay, I'm also doing good. Great. How's the business going?
Oh, it's going fine.
It's going fine.
I hope it's going fine.
Okay.
I'm so excited.
Okay.
Like everybody's always so fine. Okay. Every day I want everybody to be fine. And that's life now. Okay. And then we should be eating.
Tell me, we have just about 13 days to election 2020. Yeah. What can we do to prevent electoral violence? What can we do to stop people from fighting during elections?
What we do is that we have to this year we have to vote correctly. We don't want us to next year we should be doing, everybody should be talking this and that. Everybody should choose a choice and do our personal thing. Because like today like this, I'm also excited that I'm just excited like 2020. If you are voting, we should vote correctly for John Mahama. It should make us happy, everything. Because I'm so excited for John Mahama.
Okay. Yeah. But you know, you cannot determine, you cannot tell the outcome of an election. It may go your way, it may not go your way. So what should happen if it doesn't go your way?
I don't know, but I'm just praying God to be that for me. Yeah, that's what I'm praying. Everybody to also be praying for John Mahama to also, yeah. So.
It looks like you really want to do politics. Let me speak to the other guys. Let me find out from them. Sir, you're welcome to join us.
Please, I'm not part of them.
Oh, you are not part of them. You are just watching, an observer. Okay. Hi, you're welcome to join us.
Actually, I can't speak English, so...
Okay, what language can you speak?
Fra.
Wow. It will be difficult for me to translate. Okay, but you all speak English. Okay. Albert Sorry, our correspondent is here. Albert Sorry, maybe you can get close up. This man wants to speak Fra. Okay, so tell me, what can we do to prevent or stop electoral violence? You can speak Fra.
Okay. No. Maga understand. Okay. My tinye sela bonero ide kama ma it kama da de la nero mami my tin football mina. So mami my tin football mina la. Ina ra azawre nero lambo timina. Te san ka mo dollar nere nga. So da de la my irti o da de la te votu songa te peace wana te Ghana ana like ana sewa.
Okay. Albert, can you give us a translation?
Yeah, so basically he's saying that for him, he already knows who he's going to vote for. So he's encouraging everybody to keep whoever they want to vote for to themselves. And after voting on voting day, it doesn't have to be about quarrels. It's all about choices. And so when you finish casting your vote, you are expected to, go back home and come back when the counting is going to start and not stand around and have confrontations with people because of the choices they also have.
Now let me ask him this. We know a lot of young people are targets for unscrupulous politicians who would want to recruit you to go and foment trouble in other areas. As a young person, what would you do to ensure that you do not become a target or you are not recruited for some selfish, politician? And what can you do to also help your friends so that they will not fall prey to that?
So, as to create hombela, when land guhumenga, te politician data de coho, te era to hola nerva sabra, mien suksi imba.
Like me, Mazela, Mazela, Neraka and Bang at Madula Sella. Or one or Toronto, my football, or my football NDC, or football MPP. My little Giwa makang wa yelo, makang zabra tikama wenwane o football NDC or football MPP or football CPP. No. Ma bot salat men do. O ma wa tikama ma football wana. O ma sake. Ge maka de dar maka en bot sena o ka ambange. Aha, so ma bot salat ma de do. Okay.
So basically he's saying that if as a young person he has his choices, it doesn't have to be up to any politician to come and convince him that vote for me or vote for this other person, and by extension force him to have confrontations with other people. So again, he's just basically speaking about choices. If you as a young person, you know the choice that you have, even if a politician comes and calls you to maybe campaign with them, and maybe they want to pay you for it, you can do it. But at the end of the day, your choice is still in your heart, and it doesn't have to depend on what the politician is doing for you. That should influence how you vote or how you go around causing trouble.
Wow, that's an interesting perspective. I'll come to you before we leave so I can learn some from you, okay? Thank you. Now let's speak to this gentleman. Sir, you're welcome to join us.
Thank you.
As a young person, what can you do to stop electoral violence?
Okay. To me, electoral violence, what I think will do and it will help we Ghanaians is that this politics, it is not about we should be fighting one another by telling each other that I'm from this party and he's from this party. Because of that, we should be fighting and other things. It depends on your choice. It's your choice that you yourself will choose. Do what you do and it will benefit you, but not what someone tells you to do and it will benefit you. So to me, I think that this electoral violence, this vote we should make it peacefully, vote successfully, without no fight, no war. But at the end of the day, it will be good for we Ghanaians. We are all one, as one nation. We are all one people.
Again, a lot of young people become targets for politicians during these times, and sometimes they recruit them to go and fight for them. You know, what can you do, or what do you think is your role in discouraging your peers from taking part in that?
I think that one is bad, it's very, very bad, because we don't supposed to do so. The reason why I'm saying this is that we are all one people. Why should we let these people to go fight for these people? By the end of the day, we will not gain anything. But what I just want us to do is that we need more work. We the youth, we should get work and we should do. That's why we are here. Some of us, we are blessed that we are in these Kandus. We take care of ourselves and our family. So for that one there, I'm very grateful. We need more job for the youth to do, to maintain peace.
Yeah, so you think that if young people have jobs, they become empowered financially, I mean, they are self-reliant, so they wouldn't need the money of any politician to, you know, to go and do anything, to go and cause any trouble anywhere?
I think some of us, we have already employed by driving this thing.
Yeah.
So politicians, I don't think the money the politicians they will give, it will even enough for you to take care of yourself and your family during the whole days or the whole years in your life. So I think it's good that as a young person, you should use your strength to work hard and take care of yourself and your family than to be making all those things, receiving bribes and other things to do something bad which is no good. That is what I think.
I really love your views on this issue. Thanks so much for talking to us.
Welcome.
Okay, great. So these are views from the streets of Sumbrungu, here in the Upper East region, just some meters away from the Bolga Technical University. You hear this young, people here speaking about electoral violence, what they think is their role in preventing that. Quite interesting perspective here. I'm sure I'm going to get some watching before we head back to our hotel. Over to you, Mama V, in the studio.
Well, thank you very much, Maxwell Agbagba. Are you substituting Banku for Wache? And make sure you learn that Fafa. Maxwell Agbagba is my colleague.
I'm doing that, Mama V.
He's actually been following the former president and the presidential candidate of the NDC, and that's why he's in the Upper East region. Maxwell Agbagba, they're interacting with some young persons, and brilliant views expressed the Sheikh as we wrap up the conversation. And let me get a reaction from what we've heard. We'll come to the polling centers,
Right.
the views that you expressed there, and then we'll wrap up.
Good. Yeah, I think brilliant views. And I like the young man in the yellow shirt. You see, sometimes you don't need to be a professor, to hold a doctorate degree to be able to think. Once you get the wisdom even from your upbringing, it becomes the guiding principle in your life. And I think that is what many of our young people have been deprived of. And that's why they fall prey to, I call them political predators. So they predate on our young people, which is very, very bad. But I think that around our polling stations, which are huge in number, now close to about 40,000. From 33,000, we are getting to about 40,000 now. And with hotspots all spreading, so somebody was saying why a country, small country like this, but that is our reality. So I think we should all be supportive of the security, but the security who have been given that mandate should make good arrangements and ensure that everybody is able to, devoid of intimidation, threats, any threats of any kind, make sure that we get them out. And let's everybody vote based on his own choice. I think that is what we need to do, and we want to encourage everybody. Let's parents, community leaders, religious leaders, politicians themselves. Let's all talk more about the security.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's what will help.
The fact that we have a lot more polling centers, is that going to be a challenge for election monitoring?
Oh, yes. If you take us from Codeo angle, for example, usually you need to get the sufficient funds to be able to say you want to cover all polling stations. But because you do not have, and the number has risen, you only have to do some sampling of the distance, especially when we do our PVT. But what we do is that we make sure we spread in hotspot areas where we know there are incidents can take place. So we have those we call the rapid response observers that we spread at certain sample areas. Okay. And then we have our information center, most of the time at Kofi Annan, where IT experts are seated before the computer, and then the results that are coming. And that's what helps us actually to be able to give midday report on election day. We give midday assessment of the environment, and they are also able to give end of poll reports from these reports that we are getting. If there's a need for us to alert the police on something, we quickly, I think somebody has made a suggestion that, look, motorbikes should be kept far away from the polling stations. Those who ride these motorbikes.
You tend to agree with that?
Yeah, I think I agree with that. The police, the security apparatus, they should coordinate very well. And their presence should not intimidate. We don't want to see this masked kind of police people whose identity we cannot say, because then it makes the whole environment so tensed, and you are unable, people can abuse because the face is covered. You cannot. Yeah.
But what's your fear with the motorbikes being around the polling centers?
Yeah, you see, the motorbikes have swift movements. So anybody can cause crime, jump on the motorbike, and very difficult to, yeah. Or, for example, we hope this time it doesn't happen. There are areas where ballot box snatching is still an issue. Yeah, there are people who have been trained. They take advantage of the area. They can terrify or frighten a policeman and so on. Like, for example, if fire service person is there who doesn't use a gun, yeah, they can threaten him. Yeah, and we are in a situation where, in fact, there is falling confidence in the police or the security arrangements. In fact, we need to, the police must really assure the nation and build up the confidence, so that based on that confidence, we will appreciate and respect any police officer. My heart bleeds if I see any policeman being beaten by the public. Well, this is the one mandated to protect me, but he's the one being beaten. So where do I go now if I have a problem? I think the public need to be educated.
Okay.
Yeah, to get this. Yeah, so that we will have an election, Because in 2020, I mean, devoid of violence, and yet we are able to also arrive at a choice that the nation or the nation says, look, this is the one we want to be our president.
Well, Sheikh, thank you so much for your company this morning.
Pleasure.
Thank you for the thoughts that you share with us. And thank you for the advocacy that you're also making. Sheikh Aremeyao Shaibu is a member of the Peace Council, a member of the Election Observer Group, CODEO, and also speaks for the National Chief Imam. By the way, our documentary on the National Chief Imam, the second part airs at 6 p.m. today. Ghana's Great is a brilliant piece produced by Latif Idris. Did you watch the first part?
Yeah, yesterday I got glued. I was
Great. And there's advocacy already coming from the former President John Agyekum Kufuor, who says he deserves a Nobel Peace Prize,
really?
A position that the Vice President, Dr. Mahama Bawumia, and Archbishop or Bishop Palmer Bakol also agrees with. So the second part of that documentary airs this evening right here on Joy News. Please make a date and watch. But coming up next here on the AM show, we've got Voters' Voice. Are you voting for a party or a candidate? My colleague Benjamin Akakpo is live from the streets of Accra and speaking to ordinary Ghanaians on this.
Well, for us, we find ourselves here in Newtown, around the 37 station. It's 13 days to election 2020. We're trying to find out from ordinary people like you, how exactly are you going to vote and what will influence your vote? Is it going to be the person representing that political party, or is it going to be more of the political party itself? Now, interestingly, where we find ourselves today, it is just this road that separates Ayawaso Central, where you have Henry Quartey as Member of Parliament, and Ayawaso North to my left, where you have Yusuf Jaja as the Member of Parliament. So this morning, we're here, and we're going to be speaking to some of the people around to find out, give you, the voter, a voice. What do you think? Come along. So we're going to be interacting now. Let's start with this gentleman here. Hello, morning.
Morning.
What's your from saying?
Mpacho from Kwesi Manfo.
Kwesi Manfo. December 7, Abanobe to be.
Mpacho.
Na den na bemo den pote na obesi so a obeka say wait na meto aba na eye nipa na obehwe ana say eye party na obehwe say oh we me party nti meto amom.
Mpacho odika no madam ase. Na mom nye nimpa na osiso ana say nimpa na oloba no na mehwe ma dato aba. Ejuma oba menye biaye oni nti na moto aba no. Enye say me bohwe party ana say me bohwe nimpa no oloba no because say ejuma ni o man mu emi mo be ya me yire na me mba obenye bia won se boko ana say monye bi mu da hwe ho no oni nti na moto aba. Enye say nimpa na olo ye we na mo hwe me dato aba.
Enti enye nipa no na party no nso e
mpato enye party ejuma me nipa no so oba na so de ejuma ba ono na mo hwe me dato ma to aba ma no
na mo asem bisa hakrama o wo be ye den hu say ne oho dada no anase ne oba no ne betimi aye ne awope no
me wa Ghana nti de okoso bia minim nti de a oba woka a mehu se wo nni so no me nyo no nti na me de be ye adwuma nti me de oba mehu se oba ba ye no anase wa ye bi me mehu no ono nti na me to aba me da ama no
nti wo be pese mu na bebi a wo hwa a ebe bua wo no e ho na wo de wa ba no be ko
sa pepepe.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you very much. And for him, he is basically saying that he's going to be voting based on what will, earn his family their keep. Basically, bread and butter issues. And he doesn't really care about the personality or the party, so to speak. Where he feels he's going to be getting his benefits from, that's where he's going to vote. Let's move on to the next person. Yeah, Marchio. Pacho, if I was saying. Kwame Owusu. Pacho, December 7, Obetuaba. Na den na obesi so ato aba no nipa na obehwe na aka say oh we ne ho ye fe ana say bibia na say party no
omutu no ene behwe so ne mato aba
pacho obetimi esisu
ehunu ene behwe so mato aba
mpuntu development
ene behwe so mato aba
enti say mo hwe mo ha say na for example Ayawaso North na Yusuf Jaja ne na sefo na mpuntu no hu bi sa
menye ha na meto aba osu
otu aba osu enti e ho no nema ben na obehwe a obesi so
say me hu bibi ewo ayi na sitre no say big change aba Akora was no is akora standing no big change aba nti ebi so a meto ama no
nti wo pa che say bebi a nipa na wo ho no oya de nti se wo nya ya onto aso
oh dabi nti onya de different person aba no meto ama no
so before na obeto ama no. For him, he votes in the Osu area. He's not been very specific which constituency, but he is saying that he's going to be voting based on what performance he has actually seen. Let's come to the next person here. Hello, good morning.
Morning.
Nyamenadum. Pacho Efrozen.
Kweku Anafo.
Kweku Anafo. December 7, Obetuaba.
Oh, yeah, Motuaba. Oh, abatone de so far as I'm Ghana in the sell me to be to aba. Na NDC aba, MPP aba, you changes I will. You know, this time we had to be say party near to aba. You probably no do ba ya obi hunu. Punto ebo koso na so asitem kakra ebo koso no. All that share no that to aba because NDC aba omko na nan so ba no. Madarum yama o yen kakra o yi no internet fese. Yes an to no so na punto na koso. But this will be not the vision to about the way who let me say what shall that to about the science and what to about.
Ain't no wafano a nipa na washe and I say a party na washe.
Well, and shed a party nation day, but maybe the abane ya if you say a bob one on a say in a jam support because party need the so party in yard there is all curtains on yard the next time. Why any them for party to about their cost I am no I'm not sure to about
in Puntu Juba na washe.
Oh yes, Puntu Juba because you see I am about community or why to meet see a breast so that's it. You may be a banner ya if you say a boy because free HS is a boy because high because our first we go school for school fees about for but now at the end of the day no a boy Ntono I see to me shena I didn't to me impeja. Because you're trying to say, they be a question. They say to me, supporting na Yamakoso.
Into war feminine, sending our kind of chess. I would say, I'm sure, Oko for baby, a bear said, BB to say free SHS, no, or Chia Bay, no.
Oh, yes, of course, because I don't know there were Pejano, I saw to me one week. So that's it, because our whole went to my Nubiaban away. It don't to my confusion say, oh, about Benny, while I went to man start into the one starting, I see a one to me.
In teacher say, we'll say, you know, near Omampeni, with him, John Dramani Mahaman, you can't say, Oba, Obetwasuno, just a Wafamino, winning this.
Oh, Mingin to me, sir, because why be? Obinkas why be, but don't so young, so I said, so one so or you see, you woman, the word to me, I bought money. Interested to me to a balance on the oil and to me.
Now, Mr. Ejuma Benz are now here.
Oh, my driver. My driver have more than 30 years. But I may be a bar, and why be I shed them. So that's it. I may be a bar, not go. But now, no, we know self-free education. I know a boy drivers because at least over what may you free be. Your man can do a boy. Don't let the Quebec supporting to me.
And that is a gentleman. He's a driver here, and he is saying that for him, what has impacted his life is free SHS, and that based on that, he would want to, cast his vote in a certain direction because he feels that will allow for continuity as far as that policy is concerned. Let's speak to some other people. Hello, Margie. Pacho Efrozen.
Yawofe.
Yawofe. Name. Nemum. Abatwa ye beto December 7 no. Why been so beto abana?
You meto abapa.
Nti abana o beto no. Den e na ubesi so akase say nti e na meto abano.
Nienti a me pese meto abane say. Ma hwe binku ma hwe nifa. Ma huni a e wose baby a medi ma abako. Do me to abawa do me kwabenya. Enti ehɔ na me development na ɛwɔ hɔ no ɛna me gira so na mato maba ɛwɔ hɔ ɛsa
wo constituency no Dome Kwabenya awaka no ebi no mo say yenhu hwe the same situation na MP na wɔ hɔ akyɛ ebi nso si da ebi nneɛma ɛkɔ so wadwe nkyɛn ne sɛn
no kura nyakopɔ anim yenhu hwe sɛnea yenhu sɛ MP fo bi ni nam ni ade omo ye mamputunjuma ni ye mantem no ye ho ye ho hwe nti ye besesam men particular de mesesam na ni pa foforo aba
Enti no, what to aba, and I said this current abaya between no. We should nipa no say, oh, we me panasa intimate woman, and I say, what's your party no?
Oh, ben je nipa no. Me party no na America. Me mfa say, oh ye party bia na party e. Ubetimi aye adwuma no kwa dia meto ama. Sa, enti this year meto aba no ma na me hu say enya sa afebesa ba biom. Na ya hwe ne ebetimi aye. Sa me hwe say wo na so wa. Nipa no betimi aye adwuma no na chi na e wose yedi.
Enti me hwe ate say obi te say wo no ya ofe. Ubetimi aye skirt and blouse pa. Ubetimi ato afa ha ama MP. No ato afa ha ama president. And enya sa.
I know dia I wo me ho. E duru a na me
So that is Yawofe, and he is saying that he is actually not in this constituency. He is in Domikwabenya, and he is saying his member of parliament is not doing what he would want to see. And so come December 7, he's going to vote against, the parliamentary candidate for that party, or should I say the member of parliament. And from what he is saying, from what he is suggesting, it is possible that he could actually vote for a member of parliament from one party and maybe a presidential candidate from a different party. Let's move on to speak to some other people. Hello, good morning.
Morning, sir.
What's your friend?
What's your friend, Tete Robinson?
Tete?
Robinson.
Yo, about one December 7, over to be?
Pachame to be.
Then Tina Obeto. Then ebe pin ebe Kenya amu akoto aba.
Enti ebe Kenya me meto aba ne say. Ma hwe benku ni nifa. Enti ba me dia min ba bia meto aba na yere akọ. E na asisi anso moreover no ebu ye wie school kra ye nya adwuma enye. Enti ye pa ban ono obeba so a ye mebu na ya ba no so a ye be ye wie school a ye menye adwuma aye.
Teacher say o de wa fa ho adwen dada emebru no adwuma na mo hwehwe.
Sa na mpe.
Ti say adwuma no wunye bi ye de.
Oh, me wa adwuma ba me nuan mu wa akire. Me nuan ketwa wo tu wa akire. Won say the same thing sa. Ai.
Enti wo be hwe nipa no na wato aba na ama no ana wo be hwe party no na wato aba na ama no. Wo party?
Me wo party.
Enti party no na wo be hwe ato aba na say ebetimi aba say wo be hwe say we o party no mo nso ne nsa no adwuma nso eni.
Sa. Sa pepe.
Yo, yeah, that's it. When ya twetwe nkomo and no pay.
My colleague Benjamin Akakwede live from Newtown asking if people would vote for a candidate or a political party. Let's have a conversation on the back of that. My guests have been listening to Voters' Voice. Dr. Nansata Yakubu is a development consultant. A very good morning to you. Thank you so much for your time.
Good morning, Movie.
Great. So let me just ask for a quick reaction because you've been listening.
Thank you. It's been a very interesting trend to see people on the streets, give framing to what we would theorize usually. Practically, they just said it all. There are people who are going to vote based on interest representation. There are people who are going to vote based on policy direction. There are people who are voting for the party. There are people who are going to vote depending on the personalities and who they deem is fit to lead their interests, going forward into the future. So everybody seems to reflect, to the particular. And if you also listen closely, you will realize that most of them reduced it to their communities, which in this case is the constituency level. Nobody was talking about the national level kind of representation. The person will tell you, I don't vote here. I vote in this other place. So everybody is able to identify where I vote, what the issues are, where I live, and why I would vote in one particular direction or the other. So they were very interesting reflections from the street.
The tricky thing with our kind of politics is if you win as a presidential candidate, you need a good number of parliamentarians to work with, because you have to take majority of your ministers also from parliament. How do you, especially, and I'm building on what one person said, that my member of parliament is not doing anything, so I'm going to vote against her. What do you think the strategy is? I see, for instance, the president taking his time to go to a lot of these places and showcasing the parliamentary candidates to the audience each time. At this point, with 13 days to the polls, what should be the strategy? Are you selling yourself, or you're selling the members of parliament, the candidates? Because you can't be a president alone.
Yes. What political parties would typically do is to try to sell both the president and the parliamentary candidate to the electorate. Why they do this is that they both reflect the same ideologies, they both reflect the same political formation, the interest, the kind of policies they want to bring. What the president of that party is intending to implement is the same that the MP is going to implement. So when it comes to issues of policy, interest, and all that, then they do the same thing. Where it gets tricky is when it comes to issues of social integration, because there are places where the president will be less popular than the member of parliament, and vice versa. There are also places where, you know, the member of parliament is keenly accepted and the president is not. So there are strategies that a member of parliament can use when you are getting to the last stretch. This one, for instance, we are on the final stretch now. So by now, your own internal structures should let you know what the barometer, you know, kind of is. And I wouldn't say you are going to throw your party under the bus or whatever, but in the interest of the greater parties, they also need the seat in parliament. So when it gets to this last few days, yes, you do promote your presidential candidate, all right, but you have to put yourself out more, you know, and then go along with it. What you can serve to do is visibly, the visuals in the constituency should reflect a lot of you and the president, and then also reflect you specifically in a lot of the other areas. And then you sell your message. And basically your message is a secondary one derived from your national message, either your manifesto or your own personal message in the constituency. Because even if, for instance, you are talking about roads, if the particular political party says that we are going to make roads, you live in the constituency, so you know which road from which area to what area it's going to be the first in a scale of preference, and then which one comes to. So you go back and you interpret it in the local context. So getting to a few days to the elections, you need to put yourself more and then your president behind you, rather than from the very beginning where you tout more. And don't forget, by now, most of the presidential candidates have also finished their rounds where they go and raise your hand and all that. So there are strategies from the beginning, what you do. In the middle, by the time the presidential candidates come around, how you accelerate. And in this last round, you need to just go all out and put yourself out there. Because technically, people tend to vote you and your president. That's the traditional notion, you know. So putting yourself out there means that inherently you are putting your presidential candidate also out there. That's the technical way to explain it.
Great. Are people more critical of the parliamentary candidates?
People are usually critical of the parliamentary candidates because they see you are the link between them and government. You are the link between them and also the seats of power. So what happens is any development that they don't see in the constituency, they tend to attribute it to lack of, you know, what would I say, improvement from the parliamentary candidate. But
yeah, but Dr. Yakubu, that's not exactly true, is it? Because there's the chief executive officer.
Exactly. The MP is not supposed to be the locus for development, but unfortunately, that is how our politics is turning out to be. People translated that my MP has done nothing. There is no road in my constituency. And when you tell them the MP's role is not to build roads, they tell you, well, the MP came here and said he will build the road. So we have a big role, an advocacy role to play in letting the public and how the members of parliament themselves relate to the public in selling their message. Because the point is, if you don't go and say that and your opponent goes to stay there, your opponent might just pick you. So people are comfortable enough to hear that. So I think in this election, we've had a lot of MPs, you know, try to roll back on those kind of pronouncements and let people understand that it is our role to go to parliament to help you to be able to secure develop. But it is not like we come to do the direct, implementation. And then they'll say, yes, when you were looking for the vote, you came to say you do it. Now you have won, you are saying something else. So by and by, we need to start, rolling back on things like that. But that is how people do. They hold them ransom to those kind of pronouncements. I
made a few observations because I've been going around and hanging around, particularly with some of the female candidates. In Wejagbawe, I realized that the Member of Parliament has close links with the Chief Executive, and they are practically moving together and are on the same page also with development in the constituency. Lejakuku doesn't have a female, but there's a male who also has a very close relationship with the Chief Executive. And so they're all walking along the same lines. Now, there's a challenge if you are like an opposition MP in the constituency, in the municipality where the Chief Executive is obviously a representative of the president and of this government. How do you then showcase this last minute, what you've been able to achieve within the constituency so that people can vote for you?
There's a certain reason why we have those dynamics within our local government structure and how this relates to the national politics. Unfortunately, over the years, we keep to still have that problem. When your party is in power and the chief executive is not from, the ruling party. The chief executive can be from the ruling party, but everybody else, whether the dynamics are quite. We keep having that problem. However, I must say that the way the district assembly concept works, irrespective of who is in power, there will be a certain level of development in the area, irrespective, whoever is in power. The assemblies work in a way that they will still continue to institute and progress, because the local government structure is totally different from how the national politics work. Where what you are saying come into place is where flagship projects especially are concerned. So for instance, if there are supposed to be, let's say, 20 toilets in a particular area, so what can happen is, by virtue of the fact that the Member of Parliament has direct access to, let's say, the Chief Executive, who maybe leans in a way to that particular party, then the siting of those toilets are then in contention. So you can say, okay, this area is not typically people who are on our side, practically. So let's take it to, this area. But then, in any case, what you should remember is that everybody in that constituency is still a Ghanaian. So wherever these toilets are going to be sited, people are still going to end up benefiting from it. But yes, indeed, when the Chief Executive and the Member of Parliament are able to work together, then you have very good dynamics. But I must say that there are also other areas where people are different, but they do work together. Because, there's nothing you can do about that. You will have to develop your own dynamics, at the local level. You don't just throw it and say, okay, I'm an opposition Member of Parliament, so I cannot work there. They do work together, because don't forget that there's also a percentage of money that they have to get from the district assembly for their own project. And the district assembly never denies members of parliament these things. So it's not a case that is so bad. Okay. Just when it's flagship programs, it can be a bit complicated, but they do get some work done at the end of the day.
Well, just finally, what do you see happening in 2020? I have heard quite some people say that they're not happy with their members of parliament, even though they're not going to touch the presidential candidates. Do you, I don't know, has any research been done? Are you following any research, for instance, that says that we're going to see a lot of skirt and blouse?
Not necessarily. There've been a lot of quick short surveys. There've been the Afrobarometer reflections. There've been some work that women groups are also making and stuff like that. I think why we are having this conversation is because the two major political parties have a chunk of independent members of parliament, people who were either members of parliament or wanted to be failed in their bid to win at the primaries and have decided to go independent. Now, why that becomes interesting dynamics is that it could be that at the local level, these were preferred candidates. Don't forget the nature of the vote for a member of parliament means that sometimes who the party wants is not necessarily who the community thinks is going to be because of the structure of the delegate system. So sometimes the delegates will vote one particular member, and then the party people feel, no, this is the man that or woman that we want to lead us. So that is where it's been interesting. And they have quite a chunk, more than 20 each or so for both parties. And these are sometimes in areas where they traditionally will win. So what you have is you are going to have your opponent make up the margins, in those areas. If you have a member who says, okay, I'm not a member of your party anymore, I'm going as an independent candidate, which means that the person is not formally affiliated to you. But we all know most of these independent candidates also have leanings. So they could be in one party or the other. And that means the same voter base of the party is going to vote for both members, both the formal person you are presenting and the informal person who is saying, I'm independent. So they go and they split votes. And one vote for your opponent is one vote too many in elections. So that is why we are hearing that. However, I must say that a lot of people at the end of the day can decide that, you know what, my party is sacred. So I am not, changing from my party. I am going to vote my party. So usually for the presidential, they can decide that they stay with their party. But there are other areas where we are also even hearing challenges with the presidential. Where some are saying, well, I am not going to stay with my party on the presidential, but I'm going to vote for the member of parliament for my party. So I think 2020, just like other elections prior, it's going to be difficult to predict, to say that. But I think we are going to have a lot of dynamics around the independent parties, political candidates that have emerged, especially this electoral cycle. Because for some of them, you just have absolute no idea why. In areas where maybe for the ruling party, they have been able to put in unopposed candidates. You might say people are peeved, they didn't have the opportunity to contest. So maybe, but in areas where you actually contested and lost, but you still feel cheated by the system, and then you still present yourself. So there are whole dynamics that we have to watch out for. And I think one of the areas to watch is all the areas that we have independent candidates and how that will impact the overall national ballot.
Well, thank you very much for the thoughts that you share with us. Dr. Nansata Yakubu is a development consultant on Voters' Voice today, where we ask the question, are you voting for a political party or a candidate? What's your own voice? Stay with us. We've got show business coming up with Caddy.
Good morning, my name is Kadi and you're welcome to the Showbiz segment right here on the AM show. And this morning, I've got my boss here with me and we're going to be talking about Beyond the Return. I know it's something that we are all excited about because of what happened last year with the Year of Return. And we wanted to see more, but unfortunately, we couldn't. So he's here to talk about that and also about a masterclass that's coming up today. So Mark, good morning.
Good morning.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
How are you?
God's grace, we are alive and we are fine.
Okay, so one thing I'd like to ask before we go to move to the masterclass is the Beyond the Return. And we all experienced the Year of Return and it was very exciting. We saw all these celebrities and Ghana was like the center of Africa like last year, but we expected more and you told us you were bringing us Beyond the Return. And because of COVID, stuff happened. So what are the plans to continue with this?
Okay. Beyond the Return is going to last for 10 years. And so it's a process. So the process was starting this year. Unfortunately, COVID has diluted the strength of tourism. And so it's affected the output or the outcome of Beyond the Return. But we can also not say that because of COVID, we should kill a good job done last year. And so you notice that creative art people are doing a lot of master classes. In the meantime, some other celebrities come in, but it's not as loud as last year because of the numbers involved. And so we have a master class today. Hopefully, Our airport is still open. We hope that end of the year, some people will still come. But next year, post-COVID, I believe that we'll see another indelible mark of year of return moving into beyond the return.
Okay, so you're talking about the masterclass today.
Yeah.
What is this whole masterclass about? What are the specific things we should expect?
Okay, we are talking about the business of music. People practice music as talented people, but a lot of them do not know the tricks in the business. I mean, business in say, fashion or business in oil is different from business in music, although they have the same fundamentals. But you need to customize it to suit whatever you're doing. And so we're going to discuss the details, especially now that we are all crossing over because of internet, because of your return. We're getting collaborations with top American stars, European stars, and all of that. We need to globalize with our business, and we need to work on our minds. And so we're just going to share ideas, learn from each other, and see how we can collaborate and do some great stuff.
Yeah, and which people are speaking tonight?
Okay, we are talking to a president of Sony Music, or he's talking to us.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Vast Eye. Vast Eye is already in Ghana, Grammy nominee. He performed at Plus 233 about 3 weeks ago, and people called for, in Ghana, we call it API, and I heard it is from the word appeal. And so people called for a repeat performance, which means he's a very great performer.
Yeah.
He's already here with us. I am speaking myself because they said that I know the trade, and so for the first time, I'm going to be there. I'm not going to moderate or I'm going to lead. I'm speaking as a panel member with some other great American moguls in music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, how are creatives going to benefit? What are they going to benefit from this masterclass?
Okay. I'm a businessman, so every step I think of profit. And so if you look at it from the profit point of view, now Sony Music president is talking to people in Ghana. So one, we've created the network. After the network, people have the chance to collaborate. After the collaboration, we look for, it becomes business. You sell, you make money.
Yeah.
And so, and then those of us who are not even interested in crossing over to sell, even your domestic market, you will learn more about the music business. And so the bottom line is that it should grow revenues.
Yeah.
It grows revenues, it grows into taxes. Taxes, it broadens up the economy, government gets development.
Yeah.
That is our interest.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and this is not the first time you're organizing something like this.
No.
Do our creatives show interest when you set up these masterclasses? Do they attend?
Okay, yes, I think we started about 2 years ago. In the first few 2-3 masterclasses, it wasn't our culture, and so relatively wasn't too good or weren't too good. But lately, maybe we have hammered on masterclass. People have seen the importance. I mean, if the president of the land, Nana Akufo-Addo, can talk about masterclass or the creative arts in parliament, it should tell you that the first man has thrown some spotlight on it. And so now everybody is getting towards the concept of masterclasses, and it helps. Now, if you go on YouTube, you see people like Timbaland, Pharrell Williams, they are all doing masterclasses, and people are putting them on YouTube. People can go on YouTube and learn.
Okay, but who is funding this whole masterclass? Are you the one funding?
Myself. No. I don't have the capacity to fund it myself. It's actually by government through Ghana Tourism Authority. You know that Year of Return or Beyond the Return is actually under the tourism units of the Ministry of Tourism, Art and Culture. And so GTA is also an offshoot of the ministry, and GTA is Ghana Tourism Authority. CEO, Mr. Kwesi Agyeman, who has also come from the creative background, one of the former bosses of Global Media Alliance. So they ran YFM, they ran ETV. Because of that, he ran even Silverbird Cinemas. And so he should tell you his background. He's into our space.
Yeah.
So he has a degree of softness for what we do. So he believes in what we do. So anytime we want to do a masterclass, he brings some budget so we can execute.
Okay, now who can join this masterclass? Is it people only interested in the creatives, or just anybody can join to at least learn something?
Okay, for now, we're doing it in a mini space. If I compare it to the Kempinski space, it's a smaller space in our office, Ghana Tourist Information Center, Accra Tourist Information Center, which we've made it attic in the same compound with Gold Coast, and so we are not welcoming too many people. We can take at a maximum of 50 because of the COVID protocol. So spacing will not allow us give too many people. But thanks to technology, you do not need to be a creative person to not even be a creative person to be part of this, because you don't know where you're going to be. People think creative is just music, film, even scoring of sound, advertising, how do you call it? Advertising bed, music bed, how you position music in adverts, jingle, and all of that. They are all music. And so you can not to practice music the way we do our music, but you can still want to listen and see how our music goes. Your nephew, your niece is doing music. Yeah. You can advise via Hits FM platform, Facebook. It's on live this afternoon, 4 p.m.
4 p.m. this afternoon. Yeah. Okay, but there's one thing that I want to know. You went to Kumasi recently, and then you took a picture in front of the creative arts school that you're building. Yes. Yes. So can you tell us a bit about that and where everything has gotten to now and what we should expect?
Oh, okay. Thanks to Minister of Tourism. Oh, sorry, not tourism, education. I've mentioned my ministry, sir. Education. NAPO. I mean, in taking decisions about schools to build, he chose to do one for creative arts, which has been the baby of the president of Ghana, President Akufo-Addo. He loves creatives. He's produced a movie before. Our president wasn't successful with the movie. I'm sure that's why he ran away. So he has an idea about the things we do. So there's a creative arts school. I like the what I see. I know a little about buildings, and so the space and the position of the buildings. If the prototype that I saw, if we should finish that building, the environment will be so beautiful. Creative people like space, so that they'll be able to create the greens, the serene environment that we're going to create. And then the beauty of this whole thing is that now we're not going to get people who met showbiz or arts halfway or in the middle of their lives, and so it becomes, oh, because school, so let me just try and do music or film. People are going to be nurtured right from SHS. And let's not forget, if it's then tag SHS, you see it, it means automatically it is free. Okay. So the building has 2 or 3 are complete. The rest have gotten to lintel. But you know, it's a monumental project. It's the first of its kind, and it's a lot of budget. Yeah. But for the pace that is even gone, I think that, again, I thank NAPO. It's gone really, really fast. We went to launch, our president cut the sword somewhere last year. I was there one Sunday. And so knowing how much buildings take, I expected it to at least get to this level somewhere next year. Okay. But it's moved faster than we expected. And so free SHS for creative arts, all things being equal, I think a year and a half from now, it should start.
Okay, people were asking on social media, so does it mean you're going to be teaching just creative arts like film, music, or you're going to be teaching the other courses as well, the maths or the English? Or... Yes,
you should know the maths because business is mathematics. Okay, so you should understand the economics of business. Or even the country, because you're going to operate within a geographical space, and you must understand the macro, the economic indicators, everything in business, so that when you do business, the money you make, you'll be able to know where to invest and where not to invest. You know how people die poor.
Yeah, so it's like the core subjects and then the music. And
yes, you must do the basic English, you must do the mathematics, you must do everything, but your core, I don't know what your definition by core, but for this one, your core, or you're going to master in creative arts, just like when you go to NAFTI. Okay. Yeah. NAFTI, they teach all these other ones.
Yeah, and people were asking why you didn't put that much effort into building up, NAFTI and putting much resources into NAFTI, and then you're going back to rebuild another school.
I like this question because it gives me the chance to blow up.
Yeah, I saw that on social media, so I just wanted to know.
It's good because people do not know that this government, President Akufo-Addo's government, has invested 40 million into NAFTI. Okay. Yes. And so NAFTI got his fair share of the common fund.
Okay, all right. So Mark has answered that question that a lot of you out there want to know. But that's where we will end Showbiz. So the masterclass is today at 4 p.m. You can watch on Hits FM Facebook page, or you can listen on Hits 103.9 FM to join the masterclass and then learn more about creatives and business with music and how to make money out of your music, especially for up and coming artists as well. So that's where we'll end Showbiz. There's more Showbiz at midday with Becky. My name is Kadi. Thank you.